Thanks for coming out tonight, you guys. I got the greatest email a couple weeks ago from this lady right here. And usually we do, we have a program in February because it's our library's birthday in February. And I had nothing on the radar. And Kirsten Halls emailed me and said, hey, I've got this program. I would love to come and talk to you guys. And I said, yes, please. And so that's why we're here, and we're going to have a good time pretending we're at a wedding reception to get in the mood. And Kirsten's going to tell us about her book and some of her experiences shooting over 1,400 wedding videos. I can imagine there's some good stories in there. So please join me in welcoming Kirsten Hall.
This is going to be different. All right, first of all, yes, thank you for coming out and joining me and coming out to hear all my tales. To kind of give you a background here, this book doesn't cover all the stories, because if it did, it would be this big. This is going to... Hold on, we're going to try something. Can you hear me okay? This
microphone.
Okay, all right. Oh, how am I going to hold my book?
Oh, you can put it down for a second.
Oh,
That's okay.
All right, okay. Anyway, yeah, actually, she had mentioned that I was going to use a microphone because they're planning on possibly buying one. And I said, oh, honey, I'm loud enough. I've got 4 kids. My gosh, people can hear me in the other county. I mean, and sure enough, my oldest over there, he's like, oh, she doesn't need a microphone. She's pretty loud. Anyway, all right, back to the book. Between 1990 through 2006, I shot weddings. My first year, we shot, I want to say 16 weddings, and I was pretty elated. I was like, oh, this is going to work, I hope. Because it's an expensive business to be in, and I don't know if any of you guys saw the newspaper article that Bridal did, or did I say that right, Bridal? From Fillmore County, Bluff Country Journal did. She had mentioned that I go out with $75,000 worth of equipment on a shoot. That was not the case. I went out with about $25,000 worth of equipment on a shoot, and I had about $90,000 worth of equipment sitting in my in-house edit room where I shot all raw footage, came back home with 8 to 14 hours of raw footage, and then I did all post-production. But anyway, all right, so yeah, 1990, and I'll give you the background here. I'm sorry, I'm just all over the place. Back in about 87, 88, I started doing a photography class in college just for fun, and there was a photographer that came in looking for gopher help for $40 a Saturday, and the guy I happened to be dating, who was my fiance at the time, he took him up on that deal. And so for about a year and a half, he went out and for $40 pulled the photographer's car up around the corner and straightened out trains and entertained children while they were busy doing the portraits and all that. And that was the late 80s. And then video really started coming into the mix. And I don't know if you guys all remember, but there were like packs and big cameras and just this, oh my gosh, nothing like that used to, back then. And so my fiance, being fairly innate with electronics, picked that up. And so for the same $40, maybe it went up to $50, I don't know. He was the video package for this photographer. Well, about a year and a half into it, and knowing all the camera angles and what happens when something goes wrong and how to fix something on the fly and all that kind of stuff I got to hear secondhand on. And then when it came to doing our wedding in 1990, now we were like, oh, first of all, this photographer that he worked with, he was not exceptionally nice. He yelled at people when they were in the sanctuary taking pictures ahead of time because he wanted the reprints. And so he would bark at people. I mean, just go over and stomp over and put that camera away, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he was this, and he had this British accent, and he was this big guy, and gruffy, and so, he was not a delight. Secondly, he did a lot of the smile and say cheese portraits. Back then, photojournalism was coming in, where, you know, it was not smile and say cheese pictures, if you know what I mean. And I wanted something different, but we were kind of stuck, because if we don't invite this guy, I mean, obviously he knows we're gonna get married, because, you know, John won't be there shooting a wedding for him, because, you know, he'll be on the altar over here. So we had to have the guy, but we didn't like him, but it would be rude, but we couldn't invite him, then hire someone else. I mean, so, there you go. Anyway, we got married on a Friday in '90, and we were thinking, okay, well, this guy will give us a deal, you know, like at least a 5-finger discount for friends and shooting for the last 3 years, etc. No, we paid full price for the smile and say cheese photography, and we paid about $1,800 in 1990 for the worst video you'll ever see. Oh my gosh, this guy did not take into account, well, he had never done video. So he set the camera up right here, and when I walked down the aisle, until I got up to the altar, did you even know I was in the sanctuary? And then I appeared, and then when we went off to do our unity candle, we disappeared. And then we came back, and then we were in the picture again. He never moved the camera. And then, of course, it was July 27th of '90. It was really hot. The humidity was just awful. And the pastor in the church thought it would be a really neat idea, although the incandescent lights were about, you know, half a football field up in the air on this church, and they're only about that big. He figured he'd turn all of them off. And so that made it really dark in the sanctuary, and then there were windows on either side up in front of the altar. So if you look at someone with backlighting, how they just black out, you get the raccoon effect. To make up for that, in his photography wisdom mind, he opened the aperture on the camera, of the video camera, and also sent it on manual. So, unless you're right here, you're blurry, and opening up the aperture means you're gonna let more light in, which turns everything absolutely grainy. And if that's not fun enough, he did not spend the extra $4.95 putting a new 9 volts into the lapel mic. So all you hear is shh, and then, okay, that's that camera. Then the front camera, which never moved, and he had it like on a plant. No, it was on the unity candle, that's right. And he didn't plug into the system or anything, so all you hear is the whirring of the fans. Yeah. And then you got this really distant, faint pastor. You couldn't hear us and then needless to say, when I got my video back and I was like, we paid how much for this? I'm like, we can do better. Yeah. And so in November of '90, I filed the business name. I do Productions Wedding Videography with the Secretary of State of Minnesota. And in December, I called the church that we had got married, and I said, hey, do you have any weddings coming up? Because we need to get some demo material, because obviously this guy is not going to be like, oh, here you go, you know, have all the footage you've done in the last 3 years. So we taped our very first wedding on December 18th, 1990. And that story's in that book, too. Oh, my gosh. It's been a learning curve. If any of you read that newspaper, it was the newspaper article. It was hands-on learning, and the learning curve was fast, because you cannot yell from the balcony, take 2, I didn't get that, hold please. I mean, and yeah, the stress level of a videographer, much like a photographer, anyone in the wedding industry, you've got to do perfect, and you cannot have a bad day. I think after every time I do this, my blood pressure, you know, spikes, and I have to drive home like this. I'm not going to have a nervous breakdown. Anyway, all right, so writing it, I started off with how my wedding went. Kind of gives you an idea of the whole thing, and then it just kind of came along into us starting the business, people planning wedding, pre-ceremony, ceremony, reception, and off into the honeymoon. We did not go on the honeymoons, don't ask. And anyway, but also I wrote all these stories. I dumped my brain in August of 2005. I sat down literally in 28 days and I slammed this out. I had so much in my head. And I had 4 kids at the time. And it occurred to me one day when my daughter, who was 12, came up to me and said, "Hey, Mom," and I looked at her and went, "Oh my gosh, where did you come from?" Because I realized all of my kids are raising themselves watching Disney movies and drinking apple juice that they can pour into their own bottles, and Mom is busy shooting weddings. I shoot weddings all the time, anywhere from 1 to 8 weddings a weekend, depending on, you could do a ceremony only at 10 or 11 in the morning. On a Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend, Thanksgiving, whatever the case may be, and then, you do a ceremony only, go straight over to a ceremony and reception, and at one point we had 3 crews. We were, I think, the largest company definitely in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Midwest. I mean, we were working all the time, sun up, sun down. I missed a lot in 90 through 2005. Anyway, so, okay, what we're gonna do is, it's a little over, it's like 224 pages, but the stories run anywhere from page 1 to 200 or 201. And what I have you guys do is call out a number of a page, and then I will open it up and I will expand on that story. There are, seriously, pretty much a story a page in here. Like I said, I didn't include all the stories, and I didn't include all the not really nice stories, because, there's something that happens at every wedding, whether it's behind the scenes or people see it or at the thing. So anyway, all right. Who wants to be first? Who wants to call out a number? Oh, we should have the birthday girl first.
100.
100. You're 100 years old, man. You look good. All right. Let's see what 100 has to say. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, yes. Okay, this one was at the Union Depot down in St. Paul. And I want to say this was like 1996, like November of 96. I have, by the way, a really weird talent to memorize dates and license plates and birth dates and stuff, but I couldn't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, all right, so this one, when we did weddings, you get to know the different vendors, and you refer them out, and it really does become something along the lines of a big family reunion, especially when you go to bridal shows and stuff. And the bakery that actually did our cake, which, actually, I'll show you, birthday girl. Those are all of my wedding pictures, and so like right there, it was like 8 different layers, and of course I can't make up my mind, so we had carrot cake, chocolate cake, marble cake, and vanilla, so we had it all. But they did a really nice job on our cake, and so we started referring them out all the time. Well, at this one wedding, actually happened to be a Friday night wedding, and when we got to the reception, the cake wasn't there. And we're like, this is gonna look bad on us. Where's the cake? Well, it turned out the cake never did show. Yeah, that looks not so good. Fortunately, Leanne Chin's restaurant was down in Union Depot at the time, and they whipped up something, microwave something so they could have a cake cutting. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you have to videotape a cake cutting, and it was your referral of the cake company that did not show with the cake. That's bad. Anyway, so yeah, Leanne Chin's restaurant saved the day. That's a good thing. And I left a message later that evening when we got home. I'm like, I hope you had an accident on the way back. Where were you? Because, this is 96. We were already 5 years into shooting. Where were you? And sure enough, I didn't hear back from them, but Union Depot called me the next time and they said, hey, the cake showed up on the 7th. I'm like, that's nice. Yeah. That's always not, that just looks bad. And so that was like the last time that ever, we do not refer them anymore. So, and I, here, at the beginning here, one of my referrals way back when, I used to sell this book, 2005, well, I wrote it in 2005 and made physical copies, and for the fact that I was in the wedding industry, I had a lot of bridal shops sell it on consignment, flower shops, you know, that kind of thing. And one of the referrals I got way back when was that it's a strategic guerrilla handbook to planning a successful wedding. And it is. The strategic guerrillaness comes in the fact that you learn from other people's mistakes. So the moral of that story, and not only with weddings, but any big thing, wedding anniversaries, big company parties, whatever, make sure all your vendors know your date and where you're at and what time and go over it. And even if you feel like you're sounding like you're from kindergarten, trust me, everyone will appreciate it because there have been, fortunately not me, I wouldn't have had very much long of a business if I didn't show up. But there have been business, oh my gosh, there have been limos that break down like 2 blocks from the church. Oh, that's pretty bad. And you have about 30 miles to get, you know, in the cities from the church up to the reception, and now you're thumbing a ride. I've given couples rides to the reception and left the limo driver back there with the tow truck. Yeah, that's not good. All right. Another, okay, you were gonna, 70? Okay. Yeah, I've got to remember that I'm going to tell different stories and not sit here and drone on and have you guys fall asleep. I have a penchant for talking. Well, I'm a mom. I can do this really well, actually. Okay, 70 is the tail end. Okay, 70 has got a lot of white on it, so I'm going to see. I know what the story is, though. That was an interesting thing with lining up this book to print it. You know, you don't want to put out a page with 4 lines on it, but you know, it didn't matter how I did it. That's the way it was going to be. All right. Okay, the last one here. We have done, oh boy, you just name it. I have shot weddings on every day of the week. I have shot on every holiday of the year. I have shot as early as, well, the wedding starting at 7 a.m. Yeah, that's a treat. And I have closed out weddings at 3 and 4 in the morning. We have had all sorts of people from all walks of life do this. The one that ends on 70 were 2 clowns. They were professional clowns, okay? And they got married. And so I will read this to you. In the late 90s, 2 clowns got married to each other. Yep, literal clowns. And they brought it in the sanctuary with them. They weren't dressed in their professional attire, but they did exchange rings suitable for their profession. The groom's ring squirted water, the water being held in a balloon which he had in his left hand. So, you know, spray everywhere. And the bride's ring was a 5-inch plastic daisy, covered her entire left hand. And came with an attached bumblebee that darted around the flower when her hand moved. So, you know, like that. And so, yeah, I don't know, I would assume, I would hope they had traditional rings because that's going to just not be really, you know, it's going to get in the way. But yeah, they definitely had colorful and humorous pictures. And I have met and worked with so many fun people. I have met and worked with so many unhappy mothers of the grooms. Oh boy, I tell you, there are some grooms, moms, and I would hate to say that, I might be that. I got 3 boys, so I have 3 chances of behaving myself, but there was one mom, oh, she was so mad. She didn't want anyone to marry her son, and came to the ceremony. Oh, she was just crabby. I mean, she wasn't in the pictures. She came in something you'd wear at the funeral, totally black with the black veil. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And she sat there, and I was supposed to get interviews with her. I'm like, she's scary. And like, yeah. And like, just ask. I'm like, hi. Okay, never mind then. Oh yeah. So yeah. But most people are usually in a happy mood. She was not. Oh boy. Okay, so all right, next page.
32.
32. All right. Hold on here. Oops. All right. Yeah, at my one of my past book readings, I said, 1 to page 200, and I said, okay, the next page, and someone goes, 402. I'm like, uh-oh. I don't have that. I'm like, guess again. All right, so 32. All right. Oh, this is a fun one. Okay. Professional vendors work off contracts. Those contracts are, well, it's the Bible. It's golden. Everything is on that contract because that is your piece for the day. This wedding was probably about the mid-90s again. And so, much like we like to work with other people, other people would refer us out as well. And there was a bridal consultant in the Twin Cities that, actually there were a number of them, but this one, it's like, oh, okay, you're gonna get married. Well, you want video? Okay, you're gonna have I Do Productions doing it. Even if you didn't want video, I'm gonna talk you into it. You're gonna have I Do it. It's like, okay. Well, she brought on another consultant to work with because at the time that this wedding was going to be happening, for about 2 months prior, coming down to the wire here, she was like in California or Nevada or somewhere. She was somewhere for something. I don't know what it was, but she got back in time for the wedding. But for the nitty-gritty ending of it, she had another consultant come in. So about 10 to 7 days out from the wedding, standard operating procedure, I got the consultant on the phone and I said, okay, the wedding is at 7 o'clock, yep, it's in Stillwater, okay, yep, and what's the address? Well, I don't have it, I'm sure it's on the invitation, I'll get it mailed out to you. Okay, sounds good, and et cetera, and whenever there was a wedding, if I wasn't doing pre-ceremony coverage, I like to get there at least an hour and a half to 2 hours in advance because it got to the point where at the beginning of like 1990, 91, we would have assistants come with us, but when it's a really pretty summer day and they want to go boating, or you get the fake cough and I'm sick and I can't come in, and then you're left high and dry. Or if they're having a bad day or whatever the case may be, bad days cannot be on camera. So as a business owner, you always have good days whether you're having a good day or not, and you do the best job you can. So I got rid of the assistants, and we had telescoping tripods, and then we had it wired remote, so we could 300 feet back in our setup in our travel bag. We had a 5-inch monitor that with one hand I could move the camera, I could do the pan tilt with it. And on the other camera, I could do the zoom in. So you could have the front camera with no person up there, and it could telescope as high as, I think it was 12 feet. So, if you had really tall groomsmen or whatever the case may be, or flower arrangements. Anyway, so it was just me, myself, and I. And, oh, by the way, I was 8 months pregnant at this time. And so, let's see, this would have been with my second. And my first one, do you guys remember, what was her name, Bobby McCoy? Back in 93, she had like 7 kids. You remember the 7 kids? The lady from Iowa or Kansas who was like huge? Okay. She delivered about 4 weeks before I did, and she was big, but she was small, so she's big. One kid, I was big. I could put my dinner plate here and eat. Okay, so the second kid around, I was like really big. Only had one kid in there. And so 8 months pregnant. This was, I want to say, probably an August or a September wedding. Yeah. And whenever I went to weddings, I was always dressed up. You go dressed up. I have seen more photographers' butt cracks than I care to see. No, you always dress nice. Anyway, I lived in Chanhassen at the time, up in the Twin Cities, in the southwest suburbs, and this wedding was in Stillwater. So, going on a 7 o'clock timeline, I definitely want to be there about 5:30, 5 o'clock, because in that time, right before 6:10, I want to have that front camera set up, I want the back camera set up. Oh, by the way, I can't walk very fast or move very fast because, I have this big stomach out in front of me. And so, we're good. Okay, so if I want to be out there at like, say 5, because Highway 36 is the only trunk highway on a Friday night, mind you. Anyone going to Stillwater, that thing is going to be just clogged up. So I need to get up to Rosedale, and drop off my kid, my oldest, my daughter Chelsea. So getting through the city on Friday night rush hour, okay, 3 o'clock, 3:30, because now I gotta get set out on 35 and 94 and all that other monkey business. And so I got up to Rosedale, I dropped off Chelsea, all was good to go, and there's a McDonald's in the Rosedale parking lot of where I dropped my daughter off. And I got into, well, let me back up. Before I left my house in Chan, I had just gotten that invitation like 2 days prior to the wedding, so like on Wednesday. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what the directions are. Just grab the invitation, throw the kid in the car, the camera's in the car, everyone's in the car, we're all going, here we go. So I got up to Rosedale, I dropped off Chelsea. It was about 4:15, 4:30. I figured, okay, before I have dinner, which will be about 9 o'clock, and by the way, I'm pregnant, I like to eat a lot. And so I should probably get something to tie me over for the next 4, 5, 6 hours. So I'm sitting in McDonald's and waiting in line. I already did my value meal too, supersized with a Coke Light on the ice. Not like I order that a lot. And I took out the invitation and I looked at it, and it's like, to Trinity Lutheran Church in Stillwater. Wonder where the directions are. I'm looking for anything with, an address would be helpful. No, no address. But on the invitation, the wedding is no longer at 7 o'clock, it's at 5:30. Like, oh my gosh! This was the beginning of the end. Oh my gosh. And like I said, it was about 4:10, 4:15 sitting in that McDonald's out at Rosedale. And although Stillwater is only about 20 miles away down 36, it's a Friday night rush hour on the only trunk highway leading to Stillwater. So, invitation to the side of me, and I peeled out of that McDonald's. I screwed up their orders. I left rubber tracks. I got onto 36, and I am flying. I mean, I am doing Mario Andretti moves. I am doing Mario Andretti on the shoulder. People are backing up because back then it was still stoplights, not overpasses, on some of those major roads. I'm on the shoulder and I'm doing this, part of me was having fun. But anywho, I got out to Stillwater in probably, 25 minutes flat, less than 30 minutes. I was flying. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone out to Stillwater on 36, but there's a motel, and then there's a Burger King, and then there was a gas station. Of course, I got to Stillwater, and I still had about 25 minutes to spare, but I had no idea where I was going. So, pull into the gas station as fast as possible, get out of the car, and walk as fast as I can, which is not very fast. I walked into the, I think it's a Super America or something. And I've got the invitation in hand, I've got this crazed look on my face, and and I met with everyone standing at the counter like this. And I'm like, and I finally belted, I'm like, who knows where Holy Trinity Lutheran Church is in Stillwater? And everyone again is just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're brain dead. Okay, so they go through, and I mean, I'm just like, I'm shaking. I'm reliving this right now. And I walked up to the counter, and there's this person, and I said, do you have a phone book? Do you know where Holy Trinity Lutheran is? Please tell me, do you have a phone book? She goes, like, I don't know, hold on. Do you know where what is it again? Okay, do you know where Holy Trinity Lutheran is? Yeah, like, we don't know. And I'm like, do you have a phone book? Yeah, here you go. I'm like, that's Lake Elmo. I don't need Lake Elmo, I need Stillwater, because today, hello, we're in Stillwater. And she's like, okay, yeah. And so I'm flipping through the book as fast as I can. Someone else comes in, and they're like, what are you looking for? I'm like, Holy Trinity Lutheran. Oh yeah, that's like, it's like you go down the road, and then when you see the blue house, you take a right. Do you have an address? Do you have a street? No, but it's like a couple blocks over. Okay, so I get in my car, well, waddle as fast as I can out to my car. I get in my car, I tear out of there too. And I did find Holy Trinity Lutheran, but most churches that were built way back when and the town built up around it, they didn't leave parking lots. So I pulled up and I kind of circled and I'm like, and all I saw was, I think it was the driveway to like the back of the church, and it said no parking. I'm like, I slammed it. I took everything out of the car. Normally I do this in a couple loads because this is heavy equipment. I've got batteries and tripods and cameras, and fortunately I had one of those little luggage rolly cart things. But I waddled in there as fast as I can, and like I said, it was a 5:30 wedding, and I got in there at about 5:05, and I got that front camera set up, and you never want to set up when guests are already being seated. That's bad. And so, yeah, I set up that front camera as fast as possible. I snaked out that 300-foot wire for our front camera. I kicked it under the heat register that ran along the wall. I brought it up, I got my stuff on, I put my camera on the tripod, and just as I was about to run downstairs and wire up the groom, because we'd put wireless mics on them, the original owner, this bridal consultant, she comes up, she goes, why are you so late? I'm like, ask your assistant. Your assistant told me a week ago that this wedding was at 7 o'clock. She goes, oh my gosh, that changed like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I'm like, yeah, would have been neat to tell me. Yeah, okay. And her assistant comes up and she goes, is that true? Did you not, Claire? Well, it was on the invitation. I thought she would have looked at it. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was just pure sheer luck that I grabbed that invitation and threw it in the car. Otherwise, I'd be, at McDonald's and just driving, 55 miles an hour down 36. And she's like, well, I thought she would have read it. And she goes, no, you tell her that. And I looked at the assistant and I gave her my keys. I said, go find me a parking spot. And I was just livid. Just livid. I went down into the basement, I wired up the room, came back up, finished mounting and everything, getting the jack plugged in and everything on my wireless mic. I could hear it, and my front camera was working, and we were about 10 minutes from coming down the aisle, and the bridal consultant came back up to me, she goes, they didn't have a clue. I'm like, oh, thank you. But yeah, that's page 32. Probably spans under 33. That's nerve-wracking. So like I said, you always want to make sure that you arrive to your weddings. That was seriously, I was probably darn close to being in tears. Yeah. Okay, next page.
54.
54, all right. what we have on 54. Oops. All right. 54, ceremony happenings. Okay. Let's see, this particular one, the father of the bride, about a week prior to the wedding date, had a heart attack.
Oh.
That really throws a wrench into everything. Okay, so the first call I received was the day after his heart attack, informing us that the wedding was going to be rescheduled because, Dad is, in the hospital. And then 2 days after that, I received another phone call saying that the wedding was back on. We're good to go, but we were going to have this in the chapel in the hospital. I'm like, okay. And boy, for as small as hospital chapels are, I don't know how you're going to cram 300 people in there, but sure, we'll go with that. And so we were good to go with that. Well, it turned out at 7 a.m. the morning of the wedding, got a phone call again saying, okay, we're back at the church, we're on, we're good to go. I'm like, wow, that was good, from a couple days ago. And they're like, no, there are rules. He is coming with a nurse and an IV tree. So he walked his daughter down the aisle with the nurse and the IV tree, and he got to stay for the ceremony. And afterwards, everyone went to the reception, and he was escorted back to the hospital. So. Yeah, there have been, and usually it's the grooms who usually wind up in the hospital because they did something stupid on their bachelor party, like got pinned between a golf cart and a tree. They tried to jump off fast enough, but didn't get out of the way. And that particular groom was like a June-July wedding. And that story's in here too. June-July wedding had to be postponed until about Christmas because he was in body traction. It's amazing how fast golf carts can go, and it's even amazing how if you stick yourself between a tree and the golf cart, it's not good. Yeah, okay. And then of course what other people have wound up doing is they'll get off a boat or getting into a boat. Well, getting into a boat's not bad, but usually if you're boating and drinking in the sun and then you try to get back off the boat with a cooler, most people will miss the dock and put their leg in between the dock and the boat, and that's when they break pelvises and rib cages, and yeah, you never want to be a groom-to-be and have to call your mother-in-law and say, yeah, here's the deal. Because trying to rebook everyone and all the relatives who've made arrangements to come into town and airlines and all the vendors and hope they still have all that next date available. You would not want to be that groom, like at all. But yeah, that's that one from the hospital. All right, another number? 20? Okay, you're probably going to start getting into my wedding, and wasn't that just a fun ball of wax? Okay. Huh?
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Mine was in Vegas.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably where I should have gone. All right, hold on. No, we're past my wedding. Okay, this is the part where the chapter's called "We're in business, now what?" Okay, so I've filed with the Secretary of State and went out and got business cards and bought a couple cameras, and now I'm hugely in debt, and Lord, I hope this works, okay? On Saturdays and Sundays, and sometimes Friday nights, people who are in the wedding business are usually at a wedding, right? Okay, good job. There are some people who like to call wedding vendors on weekends and light up the phones, and if you don't return the phone call at 10 a.m. or noon or whenever, it just goes down the tubes from there. Okay, so I'm going to read you a paragraph from this. Okay, well, actually, I'm going to back up a minute here. Okay. Okay, a typical message on a Saturday morning when we've already left, okay? Hi, I'm getting married next September in the Twin Cities area, and I have some questions about your videography services. I have been referred to you by one of my coworkers who used you for her wedding. Could you call me as soon as you get the chance? I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon. And I bet you can already guess what's missing. That's it. Okay. See if anything is important is missing, like anything like, I don't know, the pertinent information. When these people call back and either talk to me directly or leave another message, they start in with the, because I put the message down and I'm like, there's nothing to go on. So they call me back in a couple days and they start off with, I called you a few days ago and I requested a return phone call from you. I was under the impression from my coworker that you were a professional company, and when I talked with them, I would remind them, when I would talk with them, then I would remind them that they miss things like, I don't know, their name and their phone number, coworker's name, a ceremony location, a wedding date. I didn't know who to call back, and that was before call waiting, or caller ID. I would just sit there going, oh, I wonder who that was. I hope they call back. And what I was saying too, with people who would call here, hold on. I think that's page 19. Yes, okay, so I'll read you the paragraph coming off 18 on to 19. I was confused on my stories there. So yeah, you either get the people who call and they don't leave any of that important information, like, I don't know, their phone number and their name, and you're just like, oh, I hope they call back. And but the other one was sometimes couples would need to leave messages on my voicemail, and there would be a specific instance that made me question both the business and the people who called. First were those who would call multiple times on a Saturday, leaving messages to call them back immediately, and or they would like to meet with me on that day. By the second or third I do message, I would start to pick up on the frustration and anger in their voices, and these people were calling on a Saturday. Like I said, think really hard. What does I do Productions wedding videography do on Saturdays? Let me think, I know. Oh, I'm at a wedding, yes. Anyway, and then their last messages would be something like, after about the third or fourth time they call on a Saturday afternoon going into the evening, it would be something like, what kind of operation is this? You aren't very professional. I demand a phone call today. I've left 3 messages so far, and if someone doesn't call me back soon, I'm not hiring you. Okay, that's okay with me. Trust me, there's a lot more other brides out there who might know it's a Saturday. So yeah, usually they would chill out when I call them and like, hi, this is Kirsten with I Do Productions Wedding Videography. You called us yesterday, and they would start off with, well, you didn't call me back. Well, it's like, well, yes, that was a Saturday, and we were shooting weddings. Yeah, okay. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. I'm like, okay, we're smart. So that is my page 18, 19, and 20. You got a 3 for 1 on that. Anyway, all right.
24.
24. All right. Now, see, you guys are missing out on the goat story on page 123. Just, so you know. Huh?
Someone shout that out next time.
Oh, that's the next one. Oh, okay.
That sounds like a number I would have picked.
123.
I said I was gonna get married at 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 at the time.
Oh, okay.
Just to be
Okay.
careful.
Well, very cool.
I know.
All right, 24. Yeah, this one was out in Wayzata. Okay, this bride had contacted us. It was a ceremony only, 2-camera ceremony only. She booked us like 6-7 months in advance. Everything is good to go, whatever. And she calls me about, 5-6 weeks in advance. And she goes, we're not going to do the wedding. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I go through all of that, and that's the end of that. And I took out the contract, and I put void, and I put it in, the done pile, and, because my contract book was this thick, so I can't, so I was being organized, what I like to think I am, but I'm really not, but I was being organized. And about a week later, she goes, "Hi, this is so-and-so." I'm like, "Hi." And she goes, the wedding's back on. I said, "Oh, good. I said, "But I'm going to send you on a contract again because I put Boyd all over it, and, you know, I put you all filed away." She said, "Okay." And so I just copied everything through and mailed it off to her, and she got it back to me about a week later. And I took it out and I put three-hole punch in it. I put it in, and I looked at it, and she had the groom's name crossed out, and all the groom's parents, you know, because you want to make sure that if it's a, you know, are the parents married, are the parents remarried, do one parent hate the other parent, or, you know, so you need to know the little political structure of every family before you go into these things. And she had it all rearranged and corrected with another groom's name about 3 weeks prior to the wedding. And I was like, wow, okay. And I thought, my gosh, this is going to be odd. I mean, are they going to be like 150 on her side and like 3 over here? No, they had it perfectly packed in the groom's family, and I mean, no one looked at each other odd, and I still don't know what the story is with that. I have no idea. But, huh? Well, yeah, I mean, all I can think is, was she upgrading before she signed on the dotted line? I mean, wow. That was odd. And to kind of give you an idea of how much we shot, I shot that one, and it was a ceremony only, and then I was, after the receiving line and the limo getaway and all that routine, I was on my way across town to go shoot another ceremony and reception, and one of my crews walked in for the ceremony and reception following that ceremony. So it's really weird to walk out of the church and go, "Hey, see you later, bye," and keep going, you know, so we were constantly busy. But that one was in Wayzata. All right.
123.
Oh, that's got the greatest one. It's got the goats on it. Gosh, how'd you know? Totally forgot. See, this is what I'm telling you. I memorize birth dates and license plate. Totally forgot about the goats. It's been 5 minutes. Okay. This one was a Jewish wedding that we did, and the groom's family was giving the bride's family a lot of grief of like, you know, we're not going to take just your daughter. I mean, you got to sweeten the deal. We want 2 goats with your daughter, you know. And that was just the running joke the entire time. Well, this reception was at the top of the IDS Center in Minnesota, or in Minneapolis. And the consultant, who is a dear friend of mine, we've shot many weddings together, she did some fancy footwork. The Marquette Hotel at the time was the catering and the hotel that saw to the IDS. And I don't know what she, you know, bought dinner or whatever, but she got 2 handlers with 2 goats up that freight elevator. And I can only imagine the little goat ears were popping because those elevators move fast, you know. And yeah, it was a beautiful, decked out wedding evening, you know, the candlelight in Minneapolis twinkling below, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I was told at a certain time, be ready to go by the elevators. I'm like, where am I going? And they're like, no, just have the camera on and be ready to go. I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there, you know. And the doors open, and here come 2 little baby goats, you know, walking out like this and through. And the bride's parents got up with the microphone and said, "They're your goats. Now take our daughter, they're your goats," you know. And laugh, and, you know, all that. But I can just imagine, those goats had no idea where they were. Not a clue. And like I said, that consultant really pulled some strings, you know, the liability issue and getting goats up there and livestock around caterers, and wow, that is the person to have if you've got some far-fetched ideas to what you want to do on an event, or if you want to have goats there, I mean, whatever. So, that is my goat story. I have been up at the top of the IDS in Minnesota with goats. So, little odd things. All right. We got about 5 to 8 right now, so.
I don't have a page, but have you ever been at any weddings where the bride or groom fainted?
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, matter of fact, there's, I think, a good paragraph in here. Oh, what year was it? It was in the 2000s. But, yeah, we've had grooms faint. Well, what it usually is they get dressed and they're all nervous and then they take pictures and they go right into the ceremony, and if it's combined with heat and humidity and nothing in your stomach, bam, they're down. I've had brides faint, I've had grooms faint, I've had parents faint, I've had bridesmaids, ring bearers and flower girls. I've had people in the congregation in the sanctuary faint. Yeah, they do. They're just like, and they just like, bam. It's like, oh my. Yeah, everything comes to a screeching halt when someone hits the floor. Now, if it's at the reception, people are just like, oh yeah, okay. Anyway, as I was saying, and off they go, because that's the reception. But when you do that on the church steps, everyone's like, ah. So, yes, I have had that. I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if anyone is, no. But there was a summer there where we had probably about 6 faintings. And it was just weird. Every wedding we went to, oh, someone fainted again. Yeah, that'll happen.
So how do you edit that?
You don't. You leave it. I mean, when I went and shot weddings, most often, we would offer 1 cameras. And if people really, really wanted 1 cameras, we'd put 2 cameras in 1 position. Most of the weddings, though, were 2 cameras. And, I mean, you don't, like, zoom in on them, but, it's part of the day, because then people will be able to watch the video and go, oh, you remember when so-and-so fainted? That was so funny. Usually people laugh about it. Good relatives and family and friends, they're laughing about people hitting the floor, but, whatever. But yeah, we don't edit that out. If your ceremony is 37 minutes long, you're going to get 37 minutes long. And we were very good at giving people, 2 and 3 tapes of 2 hours of footage. That's one thing that people really appreciated is, we'd give them, if you had a 12-hour day, you're probably going to get 6 hours of final coverage, and it was edited. I know people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sit through it. But when it's your wedding, or, oh, I didn't know they were there, or, oh, they said that, or, whatever the case may be. People really appreciated it. And other questions, too, or page numbers.
Do you have any backouts at the last second?
Did I what?
Have any bride or groom decide not to get married?
Oh, yes, we've had those, too. The very first one, not too many. I shouldn't say the very first one and make you think it's like a gazillion of them. The one that most stands out, the groom was, no, I'm not sports-minded. Is it the Detroit Lions? Is that the NFL team, Detroit Lions? Okay. He was the quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and he got cold feet about 6 weeks prior, backed out completely. He paid for everything that was planned, wedding planned, which is nice of him to do. But yeah, love that. I don't think we ever had, no, it's good that we never had anyone get stranded on the altar, no one walked away. I think Dad would probably be at the back with the shotgun. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was just him, and that was probably in the early 90s. Yeah, so that's good that we haven't had a lot of those. I did have one, it was in the late 90s. She got married to a surgeon that was at HCMC, Hennepin County Medical Center, and I won't say his name, but he didn't take his vows very seriously, so the marriage didn't last too long. And we all had gotten along great. I mean, there are some brides and grooms that are just, I mean, you wish they were part of your family. I mean, you just get along so well with them. And I picked up the phone a couple years later, and this voice is on the phone, and I'm like, man, this sounds like someone. And so she's having an Oktoberfest-themed wedding in her backyard in Wayzata. And she's like, oh, we want to hire you. Gosh, I hope you're open on October 10th, and this is going to be great fun. And we have the polka band coming in from New Ulm, and we're going to do this and do that and whatever. I said, that sounds like great fun. And so we filled out a contract. And I said, okay, and your first name? She said, Megan. I said, Megan, is this you? And she goes, yeah. I said, uh-oh, you're getting married again? I said, what happened to, groom number one? And she goes, well, she tells me the story. I said, oh. And she goes, but this one, he's really nice and whatever. And we just enjoyed having you come out and shoot our wedding I enjoyed you shooting my wedding the first time around, so I'm going to hire you again. And I just want to let you know that even though we're not together anymore, my mom still watches our video, and anytime he comes on the screen, she just fast forwards through it. But she loves that wedding video so much. I'm like, okay, well, we'll make your mom a new wedding video that she does not have to fast forward through. So I've done, and that, Megan's is the only one that I've done a repeat on. So, yeah. Fortunately, we don't have too many of those. Anyway, all right.
Have you done any outdoor weddings where the weather was funky or
Oh my gosh, that's like half the book. Oh my gosh. Yes. First of all, in Minnesota, if you're going to do any outdoor wedding, I think outdoor wedding right there brings in Murphy's Law, where inevitably, if you think you're going to have something sunny, new, not going to happen in Minnesota. But any large event, whatever the case may be, always please do have a backup location. Yeah. Let's see, different outdoor weddings. We've had weddings where it's absolutely beautiful for the pictures and whatever. This one was in Princeton, actually. It was absolutely beautiful. It was July, and it was nice, and it was warm, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And when people started arriving for the ceremony, you got it out on the west, okay, you got, people, the ceremony starts, you hear the rain splattering by the homily, the tornado alarms went off. And I was, I was in the balcony with the photographer. Of course, I have my front camera up on the altar. Now, if a tornado is going to come along and take the church off the face of the planet, it's not taking my cameras with, my pre-ceremony footage, and the first beginning of, the first half of the ceremony. No, because again, as a photographer and a videographer, you just can't screw this stuff up, and you sure as heck don't want to lose that footage. So much like the postal thing, come rain or snow or whatever, mine is rain and snow and fire and tornadoes and blizzards and, oh my gosh. Yeah, so I picked up my camera. I left the tripod there. I picked up my camera. I ran down the steps. I was not pregnant at this time, so I could run. I ran down the steps up to the front, and I grabbed that front camera off, and the entire time people are streaming down to get down to the balcony, or down to the basement. They're like, no, the basement's this way. I'm like, no, my camera's that way. And so last to ride down there, but yeah, the tornado was June in Princeton, and then of course, I bet you guys remember the snowstorm of 90, 91, where Minnesota just got dumped on. I mean, just dumped. I was living in Eden Prairie at the time. The wedding was in Cambridge, Minnesota, and it was scheduled to be an outdoor wedding if possible, if the weather would stay nice. It was going to be crisp. I love that word. It's crisp out today. Yeah, it was going to be crisp, but it took me darn close to 6 hours to drive to Cambridge from Eden Prairie, which is about 45, 50 miles. My mom, and this was at the beginning, this was October of 91. I started my business, my first wedding was shot December 18th of 90. I opened my doors up officially. My mom's like, Kirsten, just don't do it. Just, just call them and tell them you can't come. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, no, I'm going to at least make a valiant effort to get my butt out there, So yeah, they had their photographer and their pastor showed up on snowmobiles. I showed up